Peace. This is Waz for Waz Words Media, back at y'all for another round. And I'm going to go ahead and say it because false media is definitely not going to say it. But when it comes to the career of Golovkin, aka Triple G, he is one of the most overrated, if not the most overrated, professional boxer of all time. And I highlight professional boxer because he has a storied, very successful amateur career. In the amateur ranks, he did very good, very successful. So this is why when he turned professional, there was a big, a big following instantly. And he cruised through a middleweight division that, let's be for real, was not competitive. There was not many good fighters in that middleweight division. So when he had about 2 belts, he was unified champion already. In his pursuit of having all 4 belts to become undisputed, because that's all he ever said. Whenever he would speak to like Letterman or what's the name, or Max Kellerman, or whenever he would speak to one of these guys, he would always express how much he wanted to become undisputed champion. He wanted all the belts. That's all he kept talking about. Belts, belts, belts. Always. When the much smaller guys like Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez were holding those middleweight titles, he was very aggressive in his pursuit to fight these much smaller fighters. He kept calling them out. He said, I want the belts, I want the belts. He kept calling them out after every fight. Cotto was way smaller. Cotto was small for 154. So there was no way he could defend a 160 belt against Golovkin, who was a full middleweight. Now Canelo had trouble making 154. So he was more of a natural middleweight, or soon to be. So he kept calling Canelo. Meanwhile, there was an Andre Ward just one weight class north. Andre Ward was at 168 when Golovkin was at 160. And HBO kept pumping up Golovkin to the point where now this is getting back to Andre Ward. And Andre Ward's hearing it, how false media keeps promoting Golovkin as the #1 pound for pound, or probably the best fighter on HBO. So Andre Ward starts getting a little more vocal about it and starts calling out Golovkin. In a sense, like, not calling him out because Ward's a very respectful, humble dude, but Ward's on some like, yo, I'm right here, I'm not going nowhere. We can fight. Golovkin was very quiet, silent throughout that. Okay, fine. We can stick to the narrative of he just wanted to win the belts. He wasn't worried about Andre Ward, right? Andre Ward, why go up one division to fight one of the best fighters in the sport when you still have all the belts that you got to get right here in your weight class, right? So they tried to tell Andre Ward, oh, he's too small. He's one division lower than you. Why don't you move up and go fight Kovalev, who's one of the best in the sport, or who at that time was crowned #1 by many. And we all know how that played out. Andre Ward said, oh yeah, Golovkin's ducking me down here? Okay, I'm going to do y'all that one better. I'm going to go up in weight, and I'm going to show Golovkin how it's done. You want the big name on your resume? You got to go get that, even if you have to go up in weight. And we saw Andre Ward go from super middleweight to light heavyweight and dethrone Kovalev, even knocking him out, and he's never been the same since. So back to Golovkin. Golovkin was ignoring the Andre Ward talks, but was highly pursuing these Canelo and Cotto matches for the belts. Fast forward, he gets in the ring with Canelo, and yes, the fight was those first two fights were pick'ems. Could have gone either way. They ended up going Canelo's way. So, removed from that situation, Canelo did not want to fight Golovkin in a rematch. So Canelo started moving onward with his career. But around the same time, you have now Jermell Charlo, who moved up in weight. You have Demetrius Andrade, who moved up in weight. So now you have these two guys that are now middleweights. We'll do you one better. Jermell Charlo ends up fighting because when he, as the WBC junior middleweight champion, he moved up in weight, and he was given the #1 contender spot for Canelo's WBC middleweight title. Canelo dropped the belt. So now Jermell Charlo fights for that vacant belt and wins it. So now Charlo is the WBC champion. Andrade also moves up and wins another title at middleweight. So now these are your two champions apart from Golovkin. Golovkin is still the champion at 160. He's still the man to beat with belts. But now all of a sudden, that pursuit for the belts is no longer of interest for him. He no longer, they tried endlessly to get him to fight Charlo. He would not fight Charlo. Wouldn't fight Charlo. Then he was on the same network as Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. He would not fight Andrade. And Andrade was another belt holder. And Andrade's been calling him out. Just like Charlo was calling him out. And Golovkin will not take on either one of these two guys. So now here's a chance to really prove that you are one of the greatest middleweights of all time, because I've seen ridiculous posts online talking about is he the greatest middleweight of all time? Is he better than Marvin Hagler and others and Roy Jones? Pump your brakes all the way. In fact, get out the vehicle with that, because there's no way that you're gonna tell me that Golovkin is one of the greatest, yet you got guys like Charlo and Andrade who were finally big names in the middleweight division, and he never fought them? Years passed by and he never fought them? It gets even worse. So now you got, what's the name? Lara. Now Golovkin finally moves up in weight. He's at 168. And Lara, who has been calling out Golovkin for years already, moves up to 168 also. So now, forgive me because I forget which sanctioning body, which belt had a vacancy, and they were going to give a shot to both Golovkin versus Lara. The winner of Golovkin-Lara is the champion. It was for the vacant belt. Golovkin just turned that bout down last week and wanted no parts of a Lara fight. So how is this guy one of the greatest middleweights, or as some would say, the greatest middleweight of all time? How? Who has he proven himself to? The biggest name on his resume is Canelo Alvarez, and he has 2 defeats against him and a draw. Where's his definitive victory in his career? Where? Which is the definitive victory? So yeah, man. After that stunt that he pulled, I just gotta say, this is gotta be one of the worst, if not, you gotta move quick in New York. This has got to be one of the worst, greatest of all times that I've heard in regard to Triple G being greater than Marvin Hagler, greater than Roy Jones, greater than some of these all-time greats that fought in the middleweight division. Nah, man. Canelo is better than Golovkin. And y'all already know how I feel about Canelo. I feel that's the greatest media hype job of all time. But skill for skill, Canelo's better than Golovkin. And Canelo has at least stepped in there with guys that were undefeated, like Floyd Mayweather. He at least challenged himself to that degree. And he stepped inside the ring with Golovkin, who was undefeated. At least he did it a couple times at least. Or, of course, most recently against Bivol. But at least he's done it. But the problem with Canelo is that he fails every time he does it. But he fails or wins in controversy. But Golovkin has yet to succeed whenever he's moved up in competition. And he's only moved up in real competition a couple times. And that was only against Canelo. So he was very active calling out a smaller Canelo, a smaller Cotto. But when it came to fighting somebody that was actually his size, just as good as him, in Charlo, in Andrade, in Lara, all those fights got turned down. So how is that an all-time great? I'm Wise for Wise Words Media. Yo, just drop a comment. Let me know what y'all think. And we'll build on this. But yeah, Golovkin is not an all-time great. Peace.